The first and probably most public are the class action lawyers. They're going to step in where there's major losses, large numbers of records at risk, and they are going to bring their class action lawsuits. Now, that doesn't happen in one state. It used to be that it would take weeks for that to happen. You might get a case here filed, a case there filed. Now, within 48 hours, you could have cases filed in a dozen states. That gets real expensive, as you can imagine, defending that. And that plays out through the whole class action challenge. One of the biggest things in the favor of the defense side here is, are there damages? And that's been a stumbling block, although an eroding one, for the plaintiffs' bar so far. Another group of plaintiffs will be the banks. When there's a large data loss and credit card numbers are compromised, the banks typically, although it's not necessarily the rule, they're going to step in and they're just going to reissue cards. So the banks are going to come after the company who loses the data, and they're going to say, it cost me X amount of dollars to replace my cards, pay me. That's a definable damage. Hard to dispute that. You can argue as to the relative nature and size of the costs, but at the end, it's a damage that will be recognized by the court and payable. So that's one piece that the banks can come after you on. Another area where you can see the banks come after is when there's actual fraud that occurs as a result of bank cards being compromised. So in that instance, you have bank cards compromised, and we've seen it where bank cards are compromised, and then all over the world, tens of millions of dollars are spent inside of 48 hours with fraudulent purchases. That's a whole nother area of risk with definable damages that's hard to get around in terms of the damage piece of the argument. So we've talked about the plaintiff's class action, and we've talked about the banks. The other big piece here is government entities. You could be dealing and doing battle with the FTC. You could be doing battle with attorney generals from various states. It's a great way to make an impact if you're a politician and want to make a name for yourself. It's a great way for the feds to make a point on federal laws and enforce them. The FTC, for whatever reason, has been the entity in the federal government that have stepped up and really enforced a lot of these rules. They're not necessarily the only entity that's empowered to do so, but so far that's what we've seen. So those are some of the plaintiffs that you can see. And as an aside, keep in mind, when you're doing battle with a state attorney general or with the federal government, the volume of lawyers that they can apply to a case is significant, and therefore it gets very, very, very difficult and very expensive. Even if you're in the right, even if you have a defensible position, it gets very expensive to defend those kind of cases.